Let's now see how can we get rid of all these hard-coded paths as well as hyperparameters in our run script. Now, the way to do that is to probably use some kind of a configuration management system. So we will create a configuration where we will separately define all of these parameters, but outside of our main code. You usually want to decouple your code from other related things that your application requires. So that is what we are going to also do. Now, in order to do that, what I'll do is I'll create a folder called conf, and within that, I already have a file called config.yaml. And basically this file has in YAML format all the configurations that my application needs. Now let's try to understand how does Hydra access this configuration. So to demonstrate that, let me create a script called demo.py and let's import Hydra. And we'll also do another import from something called omega conf. So this is part of the installation when you install Hydra itself. Now what we'll do is we'll define a decorator that will be used with a function which is supposed to access this configuration that is stored in this config.yaml file. So let me show you how the decorator works. So this is a decorator that will decorate this function, and let me call it main. And we'll return to this main function in a while. Let's look at this decorator over here, and let me give a space and let's get rid of this for a while. Now there are a couple of parameters over here that we need to be careful about. One is the configuration name. This should have the same name as your config.yaml file without obviously the YAML suffix. Next is the config path. Now config path should be the path of the folder where you're storing your configuration file. So in our case, that path is conf, and then you usually may want to also supply the version of the Hydra that you're using. In my case, I'm using Hydra that is the version of 1.2. Now let's look at the main function. Now in the main function, I will provide some type hints. I will say that it will accept an input of configuration whose type is dict_config. And now within my main function, what I can do is I can very easily access the configuration. I will say cfg dot, and if I look at my configuration file, let's say I want to access this test path, and this test path is a child of the data, so I can simply say data dot test path and I can print it out. So let's make our script callable. I'm going to say that name is equal to main, and I will simply call the main function that I have defined above. Hopefully, if I would have done everything correctly, this should work. So I'll simply say python demo.py, and you can see it is able to access the configuration stored in the config file. Now taking some inspiration from here, what I can do is I can just copy this decorator and go to my run.py file. I can put this decorator over here, and obviously Python will complain that Hydra has not been imported, so I will do those imports also that I have in my demo file. And let me just copy this and paste it in the run.py. Now all I have to do is replace each of these things that I have over here with the configuration. So for example, I can just say cfg dot data, and if I look at my configuration file, the train path is a child of data, so I'll just simply say dot train path, and I can continue to do this for all the paths that I have. And let me make these changes and try to run this run.py